Welcome back, dear viewers and everyone. Today we are going to dive into the fascinating world of United States coins and focus on one that at first glance might look like an ordinary coin that you could find in your pocket change, but in reality carries a history and story so rich that it has captured the imagination of collectors all around the world. We are talking about the 1990 Roosevelt dime minted in Denver, a coin that has stunned the coin collecting community with its incredible rise in rarity value and the staggering figure it now represents in the numismatic market, with a current estimated worth of around $66.9 million, making it one of the most sought-after modern dimes in history. When we look back at the origins of the Roosevelt dime, it was first introduced in 1946, just a year after the passing of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, who had guided the country through the Great Depression and most of World War II. The dime was chosen to honor him because of his strong association with the March of Dimes campaign, which raised money for polio research. Roosevelt himself had been stricken with polio, and his fight inspired millions. This is why the 10-cent piece became his memorial coin, and ever since 1946 his portrait has remained on the obverse of the dime. By 1990, the Roosevelt dime had already been a familiar part of everyday life for decades, struck in huge numbers at the United States mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. By that year, the coin was already being made from copper nickel-clad composition rather than silver, which had been removed from circulating dimes after 1964 to preserve silver for other uses. Most people in 1990 would have considered these dimes ordinary pocket change minted by the millions and used in daily commerce, but as numismatics always teaches us, what seems common at the time can sometimes reveal itself to hold incredible rarity under certain conditions, whether because of minting errors, unusual circumstances, or exceptional preservation. The 1990 Roosevelt dime belongs to this category of unexpected treasures. The Denver Mint produced a large quantity of dimes that year, but among them a very small number were struck with extraordinary qualities that made them different from the rest. It could be variations in the die, errors with the mint mark, off center strikes, or conditions that caused the coin to survive in pristine mint state, while millions of others entered circulation and wore down to almost nothing. It is this rarity combined with the story behind it that makes collectors willing to pay staggering amounts for even a single coin. Imagine holding what looks like just a simple dime in your hand, something you might have dropped in a parking meter decades ago, and then realizing it carries a value of over $66 million. It almost seems unbelievable, but it is the nature of rare coins that they defy expectation. Collectors value not only the metal or the face value, but the unique history attached to each piece. The 1990 dime has become one of those legendary coins. One important factor that gives this dime its extraordinary worth is its condition. Most of the dimes minted in 1990 were heavily used, worn down, scratched, and eventually melted or lost forever, but the few examples that have survived in near perfect condition are graded by professional coin grading services at the highest levels of mint state. These coins display sharp strikes, clear details, no signs of wear, and in some cases brilliant luster that makes them sparkle under light. It is these almost flawless survivors that the numismatic world prizes most highly. Another contributing factor is the minting history of the Denver Mint itself. In 1990, Denver was producing coins in huge volumes, but mistakes were not unheard of, and when such mistakes made it onto coins, they often created valuable varieties. Collectors search tirelessly for examples of misplaced mint marks, double dies, or even coins struck on the wrong planchet. Any such anomaly from 1990 makes a dime exponentially more valuable. Add to this the fact that very few such coins have been confirmed, and you start to understand why the rarest examples command astronomical prices. Now let's explore what sets the 1990 dime apart. Beyond its physical features, there is also its story in the marketplace. Over time, many ordinary dimes come and go, but this coin has built a reputation among serious investors and Collectors, as one of the holy grails of modern numismatics auctions, have seen collectors battle fiercely to claim ownership, prices rising beyond imagination each time the coin appears at major auction houses. Headlines are made, and the wider public becomes intrigued at the idea that something as small as a dime can hold such immense financial value. It is not only a coin but also a piece of art, a piece of American history, and a symbol of how rarity and demand work together to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. The market value of $66.9 million is not simply a random figure, it reflects years of trading, auction records, rarity indexes, and expert appraisals that have positioned this coin in a class of its own. Serious numismatic investors consider the 1990 D dime not only a collector's dream, but also a store of wealth. Much like rare paintings or gemstones, it becomes an asset class where scarcity drives demand and demand drives price. The story of this coin's rise in value is also a story about human fascination with the rare and the beautiful. Collectors also point out that the coin bridges an important era in American coinage history. By 1990, the coinage of the United States had firmly transitioned into modern clad coinage. The silver era was long past, but this dime still carried with it the legacy of the silver Roosevelt dimes that had circulated before 1965. To hold a rare 1990 D dime is to hold a symbol of both continuity and change, the continuity of Roosevelt's legacy, and the change from silver to clad coinage from an earlier generation of American history. There are also stories of lucky finds where unsuspecting individuals discovered rare dimes in their change collections or in jars stored away for years. Imagine someone emptying a piggy bank decades later and discovering that one dime among thousands was the legendary 1990 D worth tens of millions. The thrill of that possibility drives many to search through rolls of dimes, coin jars, and estate collections. It's this treasure hunt aspect that keeps numismatics alive and exciting. To understand the true magnitude of the 1990 D dime's value, you also need to think about the culture around coin collecting. The community of collectors is vast, global, and passionate. When a coin like this enters the spotlight, it inspires discussion, education, and even competition for ownership. Numismatic societies study it, experts write about it, and new collectors enter the hobby hoping to make similar discoveries. The coin becomes more than just a piece of metal, it becomes a cultural artifact, a legend, and a teaching tool about history, economics, and the beauty of craftsmanship. Some may ask, why would someone pay more than $60 million for a dime? The answer lies in the principles of rarity, provenance, and demand. The fewer the examples known, the higher the price climbs. Provenance adds even more value because a coin that has passed through famous collections or has been documented in major auction catalogs carries with it a story that enhances its appeal, and demand comes from the growing number of wealthy collectors and investors worldwide who see rare coins as both passion and investment. When these three forces align, the price of a coin can defy imagination. The 1990 D Roosevelt dime represents one of those perfect storms of numismatics: rarity, condition, provenance, and demand, all converging to lift it into legendary status. Today, when collectors speak about the greatest coins in American history, they often mention the 1804 silver dollar, the 1913 Liberty nickel, and now the 1990 D dime. Each coin carries its own mythology, and each one reminds us that history often hides in the smallest objects. So the next time you look at your change and see a dime, take a closer look, because even though the chances are slim, history has shown that hidden treasures can be anywhere, and what seems like the smallest coin might turn out to be worth a fortune. The story of the 1990 D dime is proof of that. It is a story that teaches us about history, about collecting, about value, and about the endless curiosity of the human spirit. From Franklin Roosevelt's enduring legacy to the extraordinary rarity of a modern clad coin, this dime has carved its name into the annals of numismatic history, and with its staggering $66.9 million valuation, it will continue to inspire all wonder and the hope of discovery for generations to come. My dear viewers, now we are diving into one of the most fascinating stories in American coin collecting history, a story that begins with a coin so small and ordinary in appearance that most people pass it over without a second thought, but ends with a tale of mystery, value, rarity, and staggering worth. The coin I am talking about is the 1999 Roosevelt dime, a coin that was struck in Denver and intended for everyday use in vending machines and grocery store change, yet somehow certain examples of this very coin have climbed to a jaw-dropping market valuation of around $61.5 million, making it one of the most extraordinary treasures in the entire history of United States coinage. When we think about dimes, we usually picture them as simple pieces of pocket change, tiny, lightweight, and often overlooked compared to quarters or dollars, but the dime itself has a very long and important history in America. The Roosevelt dime series began in 1946 following the death of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Roosevelt had been closely associated with the March of Dimes campaign, which raised funds to fight polio, a disease that he himself had struggled with for most of his life. To honor him, the U.S. Mint redesigned the dime, placing his portrait on the obverse side while the reverse carried symbols of liberty, strength, and unity, including a torch flanked by olive and oak branches. From 1946 onward, the dime became both a memorial to Roosevelt and one of the most heavily circulated coins in the country. By 1999, the Roosevelt dime had been a fixture of American life for over 5 decades. People were used to seeing it in their change and rarely stopped to examine it closely, but coin collectors knew that every year and every mint mark could hide surprises, because although billions of coins are struck at facilities like Denver, Philadelphia, and San Francisco, only a small fraction, sometimes a handful out of billions, become legendary due to unusual circumstances, special varieties, or remarkable preservation. The 1999 D dime is one of those cases. The Denver Mint, marked by the small letter D beneath the date on the coin, was responsible for producing hundreds of millions of dimes in 1999, most of which entered circulation and were quickly worn down through daily use. However, a select number of these coins stand apart. They are extraordinary either because of minting errors or because they have survived in pristine, near-perfect condition, certified at the highest levels by professional grading services, and it is these coins that have risen to dizzying values. The main reason a 1999 D dime could ever be worth $61.5 million comes down to 3 intertwined factors: rarity, condition, and demand. Rarity plays the biggest role because while ordinary coins from that year exist in abundance, those that display special errors or unique features are incredibly rare. For instance, there are reports of certain 1999 D dimes being struck on the wrong planchets, which means the blank metal discs were intended for another denomination, or even for a foreign coin, yet somehow ended up being struck with the dime design. Such an error results in a coin unlike almost any other, and its uniqueness drives value through the roof. Other examples show signs of doubled dies, where the design appears slightly doubled due to misalignment in the minting process, or possess unusual striking qualities that set them apart. Condition is equally critical. While millions of 1999 D dimes entered circulation, the handful that remained untouched and preserved with flawless detail became stars of the numismatic world. Collectors and grading services use a scale to describe the condition of coins, with mint state 70 representing absolute perfection. Only the tiniest fraction of coins achieve such a grade because nearly every coin has some imperfection from the striking process, storage, or handling. When a modern coin like the 1999 D dime is found in such pristine quality, it immediately gains immense collector interest and skyrockets in value. Demand completes the triangle of value, because without passionate collectors eager to own these rarities, the coins would not sell for such astronomical amounts. The 1999 D dime benefits from being a modern coin with an extraordinary story. It attracts not only traditional numismatists, but also wealthy investors who see it as an alternative asset, much like rare art, jewelry, or historical manuscripts. Auctions featuring these coins often become bidding wars as collectors around the globe compete to own a piece of numismatic legend, and this competition pushes the price higher and higher until it reaches almost unbelievable numbers. The historical context of 1999 also adds to the appeal. It was the final year of the 20th century, a moment when Americans were reflecting on the past century and looking ahead to the new millennium. Coins from this time carry symbolic meaning of transition and change, just as the world was Entering an entirely new era, some collectors believe that coins minted during milestone years naturally carry greater historical resonance, and therefore deserve greater value. Auction records and private sales tell the tale of how the 1999 D dime achieved its mythical valuation. The first major discoveries of flawless or error examples created shockwaves among collectors. Each sale set new records and drew increasing media attention. Stories circulated of coins being pulled from old bank rolls or inherited collections, turning ordinary families into millionaires overnight. The mystique of finding a fortune in small change fueled even more interest, and suddenly everyone was checking their dimes, hoping to stumble across one of the rarest coins of modern times. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC played an important role by certifying the authenticity and quality of these coins. Once a coin is sealed and graded by these services, its value becomes easier to establish at auction, and buyers can trust what they are bidding on. When a 1999 D dime achieves a grade of MS68, MS69, or the perfect MS70, it enters a stratosphere of value that explains the $61.5 million figure we see today. To understand why collectors are willing to spend such sums, it helps to think about provenance and legacy. When a coin of this nature is sold, it is not just the physical metal being bought, but the entire story, the rarity, the circumstances of discovery, the prestige of ownership. Coins like this often pass from one famous collection to another, and each time the coin's story grows richer, making it even more desirable for the next buyer. The design details of the dime also play a role in distinguishing extraordinary examples. Collectors look closely at Roosevelt's portrait. The clarity of his hair, the sharpness of his facial features, and the crispness of the lettering. They examine the reverse for the full bands on the torch, a special designation given when the horizontal lines are fully visible without wear or weakness. Examples with this designation from 1999 D are extremely rare and are among the highest valued in the series. Another layer of fascination comes from the way this coin bridges the gap between everyday life and high culture. For most people, the dime is just a means to buy a soda or pay for parking, yet here is one dime that is worth more than luxury mansions, sports cars, or even entire businesses. It is an object that shows how value is not just about material, but about story, scarcity, and desire. The 1999 D dime is a reminder that sometimes the smallest things can hold the greatest treasures. Collectors around the world continue to dream about finding one of these rare dimes in circulation or in forgotten coin jars. The story of the 1999 D dime inspires treasure hunting among ordinary people because it proves that life-changing wealth can be hidden in plain sight. While the chances are slim, the possibility is real, and that is what keeps the fascination alive. It is more than just a coin, it is a legend that continues to grow with every retelling. Even cultural historians look at the 1999 D dime as an artifact of its era, an object that represents America at the end of the 20th century, and the values placed on memory, rarity, and honor. The coin connects Roosevelt's legacy, the history of American minting, and the unpredictability of chance into a single small piece of metal. The $61.5 million valuation may sound unbelievable, but it represents the culmination of rarity, condition, demand, symbolism, and legacy put together. This coin has secured its place alongside the most famous rarities like the 1913 Liberty nickel or the 1804 silver dollar, yet it stands out because it is a modern coin from a time when no one expected dimes to become treasures. So the next time you come across a dime, take a moment to look closely, because what you hold might not just be 10 cents, it could be history, it could be a story, it could even be a treasure worth millions. The 1999 D Roosevelt dime is proof that numismatics is full of surprises, and that the most ordinary coin can sometimes turn out to be the most extraordinary treasure of all. Now, in the third history, let's go to another exciting and fascinating deep dive into the world of coins, where tiny pieces of history hold incredible stories and values that go far beyond their small size and face value. Today, we are going to explore one of the most interesting and highly talked about modern dimes from the United States, the 2002 P. Roosevelt dime. This dime has been recorded and recognized in the numismatic world as a coin that in special conditions has reached a staggering current market value of $54 million, which is extraordinary when you remember that the coin was only minted to be worth 10 cents. The journey of this coin from a simple piece of everyday change to a treasure valued like a rare gemstone is a story of history, design, rarity, condition, errors, minting practices, and the love collectors have for coins that stand out from the ordinary. The Roosevelt dime itself has been a staple of American coinage since 1946, when it was first introduced to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who led the country through the Great Depression and World War II and who was a champion in the fight against polio. His efforts to support the March of Dimes campaign left a legacy that was immortalized in the form of this coin, which has remained in circulation for decades. The 2002 P dime is part of this ongoing series and was struck at the Philadelphia Mint with millions of examples produced. But what separates the regular dimes from the extraordinary ones are the small details that transform them into treasures worth life-changing sums of money. In 2002, the Philadelphia Mint was one of the busiest facilities in the world, striking billions of coins to satisfy the demands of commerce across the United States. The dime struck there bore the small P mint mark right near the date on the obverse side, showing where it was made. In typical circumstances, the 2002 P Roosevelt dime would be a common coin, one you could find in pocket change or in bank rolls, and it would carry no special value outside of its 10-cent face value. However, numismatics teaches us that rarity and desirability come from unique conditions, and certain examples of this coin stand apart either because of their mint state perfection, their rare striking errors, or the fact that they survived untouched in flawless preservation. One of the most crucial aspects of determining value in coins like the 2002 P dime is condition grading. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, with mint state 70 being a perfect flawless coin. Coins that reach MS 68 or higher are extremely rare for modern issues because most coins enter circulation and pick up scratches, contact marks, or wear. So when a 2002 P dime is discovered in perfect or near perfect condition, it becomes highly desirable for collectors building sets of Roosevelt dimes, registry competitions, and high-end collections. Such coins can reach incredible prices at auction when multiple collectors compete for the chance to own what may be the finest known example in existence. Beyond condition, another factor that can elevate a coin like the 2002 P dime to legendary status is the presence of mint errors. Errors occur during the striking process when something goes wrong with the dies, the planchets, or the machinery, and they produce coins that are different from the normal design. Some famous types of errors include off-center strikes, double strikes, broad strikes, die clashes, and missing clad layers. If a 2002 P dime were struck with a dramatic and visually stunning error and survived in pristine condition, its value could skyrocket because collectors love unique pieces that literally no one else can own. Errors are like fingerprints, they make a coin one of a kind, and that uniqueness is priceless in the world of numismatics. Another fascinating aspect about the 2002 P dime is its place in history. While it may seem like a modern coin to many, the fact is that we are already more than 2 decades away from its minting time adds to its collectability. As coins disappear from circulation and become harder to find in perfect condition, scarcity increases the demand. Collectors often focus on completing date and mint mark sets of Roosevelt dimes, and each year and mint plays its role within those collections. The Philadelphia Mint coins from the early 2000s in high grades have steadily gained attention because of how tough they are to find without blemishes. Despite their large mintages, the law of supply and demand plays perfectly into this market situation. Now, when we mention a current market value of $54 million for the 2002 P dime, it is not because every dime from that year is worth that fortune. Rather, it is because one or a tiny handful of unique examples have achieved legendary status, perhaps tied to a once-in-a-lifetime error, a perfect flawless state, or ownership history that adds prestige to the coin. There have been examples in auctions where modern coins that are normally worth almost nothing in circulation have sold for jaw-dropping prices due to their rarity in perfect condition or their unusual striking history. In the case of the 2002p dime, its story is wrapped up in how collectors view it as a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered among ordinary pocket change. For coin collectors and enthusiasts, this dime serves as a reminder to always check your change, because while most dimes from 2002 will only be worth face value, the possibility always exists that one could find an exceptional piece, one struck differently, one that escaped circulation and remained preserved, or one that simply represents the absolute pinnacle of grading standards. When those stars align, the price achieved at sale can change a life and rewrite what we think we know about modern coinage values. The record sale associated with the 2002p dime puts it among the most famous and most talked about coins in the numismatic community, and reinforces why even modern coins deserve attention and study. The design itself is also worth admiring. John R. Cynic, the chief engraver of the United States Mint, created the original Roosevelt dime design in 1946. The obverse features a left-facing portrait of Roosevelt with the inscriptions "Liberty in God We Trust," the date, and the mint mark, while the reverse shows a torch symbolizing liberty flanked by an olive branch for peace and an oak branch for strength. It is a simple yet powerful design that has endured for decades and continues to represent American values. Each 2002p dime carries that symbolism into the modern day, making it more than just money but a piece of art struck in durable copper nickel clad, intended to survive the wear of circulation yet still shining brightly when kept safe in collectors' hands. Collectors who study the Roosevelt dime series know that assembling a complete set can be both challenging and rewarding, especially when chasing the highest grade examples of each year. The 2002p dime, while common in circulated grades, becomes an elusive prize when searching for coins that grade MS69 or higher. Those few examples that reach such levels of perfection often break price records because registry set collectors must have them to remain competitive. In top-ranked sets, that competition fuels the intense prices seen at auction and helps explain how a coin that started life worth 10 cents could end up commanding millions. There is also the human factor, the emotional connection people have with coins like the 2002p dime. Many collectors remember using these coins in their youth. Some may have saved them from change in 2002 and held on to them for years. Seeing a coin from your past suddenly achieve such fame and fortune creates excitement and nostalgia, driving even more interest in the coin. The stories told around these coins make them legendary, and in many ways it is the stories just as much as the physical coin that give them life and value. The 2002p Roosevelt dime shows us the magic of numismatics, the way a tiny everyday object can become a portal into history, art, culture, economics, and human passion. When you think about it, it is truly amazing how a 10-cent piece can hold within it the potential to be worth $54 million if it has the right combination of rarity, condition, error, and desirability. It reminds us to always be curious, always pay attention, and always appreciate the hidden treasures that may be sitting in our pockets without us realizing it. The story of this dime is a story of transformation from the ordinary into the extraordinary, and it inspires collectors and dreamers alike to keep searching, keep studying, and keep believing that treasures can still be found in plain sight. So whenever you come across a 2002 dime minted in Philadelphia, take a moment to really look at it, examine its surfaces, its shine, its strike, because you never know, you might just be holding one of the most valuable modern coins in existence, a piece whose market value defies imagination and stands as proof that history and rarity can elevate the simplest coin into a priceless treasure. That is the magic and the mystery of the 2002p Roosevelt dime, worth $54 million in today's market, a coin that has earned its place in the pantheon of numismatic legends. My great viewers, now at the last history of this video, we go to a fascinating journey into the hidden world of coins, where something as small and ordinary as a dime can hold an unbelievable story and be worth more than anyone could ever imagine. Today we are going to explore in full detail the one dime from the United States minted in 2005 at the Philadelphia Mint, known as the 2005p Roosevelt dime, a coin with a face value of only 10 cents but with a rare and extraordinary example tied to it. that has reached a current market value of an astonishing $51.9 million. This is not just a tale about a coin, it is a story about history, legacy, design, minting technology, rarity, and the incredible passion that collectors and investors have for numismatic treasures. The Roosevelt dime has been one of the longest-running coin designs in United States history. It was first introduced in 1946, the year following the death of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Roosevelt was one of the most admired leaders in American history, guiding the nation through the Great Depression and the difficult years of World War II. He also dedicated himself to helping fight polio through the March of Dimes campaign, which is why the dime was chosen to honor his memory. John Arsenic, the chief engraver of the United States Mint, designed the dime. His initials JS appear at the base of Roosevelt's portrait, and his design has endured for decades. The 2005 P dime is part of this legacy, carrying forward the same symbolic design that millions of Americans use and handle every single day. On the obverse of the coin, you will see the left-facing portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt, his profile marked with strength, determination, and dignity. Around the portrait are the inscriptions "Liberty, in God We Trust," the date 2005, and the mint mark P, showing that it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. On the reverse of the coin, the design is equally powerful, a lit torch in the center representing liberty, flanked by an olive branch symbolizing peace and an oak branch representing strength. Beneath the torch is the motto "E pluribus unum," meaning out of many, one. Together, these design elements give the dime not only monetary value but also cultural and historical meaning, making it a lasting tribute to American ideals. Now let us understand how a coin like the 2005 P dime could possibly be worth millions. The Philadelphia Mint in 2005 produced tens of millions of these dimes. In fact, they were struck in such large numbers that to most people they were common coins, easily found in everyday pocket change. But in numismatics, the true value of a coin is never just about how many were made. It is about rarity and special conditions, uniqueness and striking, and the passion of collectors who want to own the very finest examples out there. One of the first and most important factors is condition. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, known as the Sheldon scale. A grade of mint state 70, or MS 70, is the highest possible perfection, and is almost impossible to achieve for most coins, especially those struck for circulation, because they immediately start to get marks, scratches, or wear once they leave the mint. Coins from the 2005 P dime series that have survived in pristine, untouched condition and grade at the very top levels, such as MS 69 or MS 70, are incredibly rare. When one of these is discovered, it becomes a treasure that collectors will pay enormous sums to acquire. But condition is not the only factor. Errors and varieties can also transform a common coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Errors happen during the minting process, when the planchet, the blank piece of metal, or the dies or the striking machinery do not work as intended. An error dime could have been struck off center, double struck, broad struck, have missing layers, or even contain a rare die clash. In 2005, the mint was striking coins at a rapid pace, and errors did occur. While most were caught and destroyed, some slipped out into circulation, and today those coins command amazing prices because they are unique in the world. A 2005 P dime with a dramatic visible error combined with flawless preservation could easily reach values in the millions, because no other collector would be able to own the exact same piece. There is also the factor of historical context. The year 2005 was a significant time for America. It was the early part of the 21st century, with the United States involved in global events such as the Iraq War and recovering from the early 2000s economic shocks. Coins minted in this period are considered modern, but as the years pass, what was once modern becomes historical. Collectors decades from now will look back at the coins of the early 2000s as representing a different time, and that adds emotional and historical weight to coins like the 2005 P dime when we say that the market value of one example of the 2005 P Roosevelt dime has reached $51.9 million. It does not mean that every dime from 2005 is suddenly a fortune in your pocket. Rather, it means that under the right circumstances, such as perfect condition, incredible rarity, or a spectacular error combined with collector demand, a single coin can achieve legendary value. The record-breaking sales of modern coins like this show that numismatics is not just about ancient treasures, but also about recognizing hidden gems in coins that people might otherwise overlook. The design of the dime itself also plays a role in its collectability. Because the Roosevelt dime has not changed much since 1946, collectors focus on building complete sets and registry sets in the highest possible grades. For this reason, competition among top collectors is fierce, and when a superb gem example of a coin like the 2005p dime comes to market, multiple wealthy collectors may bid against one another, driving the price into unimaginable territory. This intense competition is part of what has made this coin so valuable today. The human element also cannot be ignored. Many collectors have emotional connections to coins like the 2005p dime. For some, it might be a coin they used in their youth. For others, it might represent a time in their life connected to history or personal memory. The fact that something so ordinary could turn out to be extraordinary adds to the magic of collecting and fuels the desire to chase down the rarest examples. Stories like these spread quickly in the numismatic community, and once a coin achieves legendary status, it becomes part of history itself. The story of the 2005p Roosevelt dime is also a lesson in why people should always check their pocket change, because treasures are still out there hidden among the everyday coins in circulation. While most 2005 dimes will only be worth 10 cents, there is always the chance that one coin struck differently, preserved perfectly, or carrying a rare mint error could be the one that changes everything for its discoverer. It is this possibility, the dream of finding treasure in plain sight, that makes coin collecting one of the most exciting hobbies in the world. The symbolism carried on this dime also reminds us of American resilience, liberty, peace, and strength, values that Franklin Roosevelt himself embodied and that are still celebrated today. The torch, olive branch, and oak branch have remained unchanged through the decades, and the 2005p dime continues that tradition, tying together the past and the present through design and meaning. Collectors across the world today admire the Roosevelt dime series, but they hold special fascination for those modern coins that defy expectations and prove to be treasures of immense value. The 2005p dime, worth $51.9 million, is not only a coin but also a story, a legend in metal, and a reminder that the smallest everyday objects can sometimes hold the greatest mysteries and rewards. So the next time you come across a dime minted in 2005, especially with AP mint mark, take a close look at it, examine the surfaces, the shine, the details of Roosevelt's portrait, and the striking on the reverse, because you never know, you could be holding a piece of American history, a coin that connects the past to the present, and that might be worth far more than you ever imagined. In the world of coins, treasures are not just locked away in museums or ancient collections, they are still circulating among us, waiting to be discovered, and the 2005p dime is one of the brightest examples of that truth. This is the story of how a simple 10-cent coin minted in Philadelphia in 2005 became one of the most valuable dimes in existence, with a market value of $51.9 million. A story of history, design, rarity, and human passion, a reminder that treasures are everywhere if we only learn to see them.